Hi, this is Kevin Deal from Upscale Audio, and today we're going to talk about our 25th anniversary. How did I find that out? Well, I don't know if you know this, but I've decided I want to become an attorney. And so how am I going to achieve this? I'm going to binge watch 25 years, 25 seasons of Judge Judy. And I figure by the time I'm done with that, I will be fully qualified. And it's kind of funny, Judge Judy actually has something to do with the founding of Upscale Audio. And maybe I'm going to tell you that story sometime because it is our 25th anniversary too. And the company's birth was very, very painful. Judge Judy was involved, I guess, in a way. And maybe I'll tell the story. There's supposed to be some magazine, a really cool magazine that was going to interview me, and they were sending a guy out and a photographer and all this in March, and then you guys know what happened in March of 2020, right? No one's coming out from New York then, and who cares? Maybe I'll tell the story sometime. It is also the 25th anniversary of balanced audio technology. I'm going to tell you something. This is a $30,000 preamp, right? And there's a couple of different ways to make a $30,000 preamp. First off, you can be a private equity group owned company and you go, okay, whatever, let's get the slide rule out. Let's look at spending $2 less on a chip volume control. And I'm telling you, that should exist now because big business has gotten into high-end audio. And I hate that. I reject that idea of people just looking at this as a place to make a buck. I don't dig. Another way to do it is, maybe you just put a lot of parts in, and that can be cool. But I have said before that there are no new designs in preamps, and I would, up until this point, have to say, yeah, that is true. But I have seen things in this preamp that I've never seen before. I was talking to Steve Bednarski and then Victor Kamenko. Victor's the engineer, right? And Victor is he is just so frickin' brilliant. And they were telling me about the listening test that they did when they came up with these new capacitors and the listening test that they did and the way they thought outside of the box with this power supply. And it was so much fun because Balanced Audio Technology is an enthusiast company. Their products, even their lower priced preamps, have always been made differently from some of the other big name brands because they will not make, well, I shouldn't say they will not because they'll probably end up doing it. But look at the volume controls. I'm going to talk about that in a second. They have always done things the right way. They've always given you more for your money than the other big name companies. But this one really baffled me because I was talking to my store manager, Ash. Ash is an electrical engineer and an audiophile, and I had my service manager, John, on a conference call with Steve and then with Victor. Because we did not get how this power supply works, they couldn't send us a schematic because they're not about to let us see a schematic. That's secret stuff, right? But we're trying to see how it works. There's 4 toroidal transformers in this thing. There's 2 over here and 2 over here. And the way that it works normally with the manufacturer is you're going to put all the power supply in this box, and then you run an umbilical cord over here. That's the way they do it. That is not what they did here. There is an IEC plug here that plugs into the wall and 2 toroids. There's an IEC plug here and 2 toroids. And what they have done, this is what's called a split phase power supply. I guess really what I should say is it's a bipolar power supply. This side of the box supplies all the negative voltage. This side of the box supplies all the positive side of the voltage. And we could not figure it out until we talked to those guys and found out, that's why this thing is so goddamn quiet and why the dynamics are so amazing. It was like, how did they do this stuff? And I've never seen that before in another preamp. If you've seen it, let me know, but I have not. Something else that they did in this unit is, I've always loved this. Some of the other big name preamps, they don't use tube rectification. They just don't. And why they don't do that in a preamp, you don't want to use tube rectification in a power amp, right? Because in a power amp, dynamics change all the time. You turn the volume up all the time, and that's not a good thing. But in a preamp, tube rectification, just number one, it is quieter than solid state rectification. Number two, it gives you more tube glory. So you have a pair of 5AR4s right here. And so you've got a 5AR4 for the left channel and one for the right, because this thing is dual mono. Over here, for each channel, you have a current supply board. And on it, you have a pair of 6 C19 tubes. And those things are just beefier than hell, especially when you've got two of them. So that's where you get amazing current delivery. But they did something that is different. Look down here, and you're going to see 4 more tubes. Now, you're only going to use 2 of these tubes at any given time. You've got a pair of 6C45s, that's the little ones, and a pair of 6H30s, and a switch to go in between them. That's the AC shunt tubes. And when you change that switch, it's going to change the tonal balance of the preamp ever so slightly. And I'm not going to tell you which one sounds better, because there's no such thing. I'm not even going to tell you what the net effect is, because anyone who buys these, I don't want to spoil things for you. You want to find out for yourself on the journey. Now you see these capacitors here? They look a little different than anything else you've ever seen. You know why? Because no one else does it. They've used these amazing capacitors for years, but what they started doing was adding bypass caps of different values along with the main body capacitor. And these bypass caps that they were experimenting, they found one in particular that is a silver and oil cap. And they found that it just added this amazing sweetness to the top end without losing extension, but just adding this sense of grace, right? And this is an expensive capacitor. It's the most expensive bypass cap I've ever seen. Just this little cap, they're $100 each. And so you got 4 of them, plus you've got another 10 of them over here. I mean, that's $1,200 just in the little bypass caps. I don't know of another manufacturer that does that. But that's the whole thing about BAT, right? They don't think about the cost so much. They think about performance. So you've got these special capacitors over here, and then you've got 10 more of them over here. Now let's talk about the volume control for a moment. I always bitch about volume controls because some manufacturers use chips, and you never know if they're using a good one or a bad one. And sometimes there are ways to implement them where they don't have an electronic sheen, but many times they do. And so a lot of times I kind of blow out the idea of that, right? So what balanced audio technology has always done is used a resistor network as a volume control. See all these CMOSs here and all these resistors? There's bulk foil resistors right here on the ends, and then they bleed off the volume using all these little metal film resistors. There's 2 boards in here, one for the left channel and one for the right channel. I have to applaud these guys for doing it that way, because it gives you all the flexibility of being able to change volume in 1/2 decibel steps. I mean, that's kind of nice to be able to fine-tune volume just where you want it, but without degrading the sound quality. It costs a lot more money to do this and make these 2 boards than using a chip that costs $2.50. Now, right up in front of these boards, you're going to see something here. These black boxes. These are the output transformers. What did I tell you when we talk about tube power amps? That the key to bass response, the key to bandwidth is not power. Forget power. I talk about in a tube amplifier, the bandwidth is going to be determined by the quality of the output transformers. In a preamp, many manufacturers use coupling caps, and you want to make sure that they use really, really good ones. I mean, because that's going to determine the sonic signature of the preamp. But what if you could get rid of those coupling caps and just get rid of any kind of signature and just have things naked where you got all I don't know, like if you think about the wail of a corduroy cloth, you know what I'm saying? Where you got every bit of detail without brightness. What if you could get rid of that question? You can do that by using transformer coupling, but It's hard to do, right? Because it's expensive and it's difficult and people just don't want to go there. So not only does BAT use transformer coupling in some of their higher end preamps, in this one, they came up with new output transformers. They used the best quality wire available from Cardus. Then they send them over to Lundahl in Sweden, where they are wound to Lundahl specifications and BAT specifications. I mean, something that is absolutely amazing. And then to shield them and to keep all the noise out, they place them in these mu metal shields. I've not seen another preamp doing it like this. Not like this. I mean, that's an expensive part, and it shows that this is a company that is thinking and playing and having fun with it. They're not just thinking about bean counter stuff. You know what I'm saying? Now, the tubes are 6H30s. There's 4 of them here. So there's 2 for the negative because it's a balanced design. 2 of them for the negative, 2 of them for the positive side of the signal. And each one of those tubes is a dual triode. They wire them internally in parallel and then in parallel to each other. And the result is this. You have a very low output impedance of 200 ohms. I don't care what amp you get now or down the road. I don't want to hear about you saying, I got long cables. These are going to run anything. And it's an amazing tube. They have the current delivery of like 10 6922s. I mean, it's just a bonkers tube. And you got to understand something. I shouldn't go there, but I'm going to go there. All right, here we go. There's other companies that have used 6H30s, and for people that know some of these other companies, they will say that that would be the point where the product started sounding too technical and too thin. Balanced Audio is the originator. They're the first ones to use the 6H30. And anyone will tell you that owns a BAT preamp, they don't sound thin, they don't sound mechanical because they have more experience with this tube than anybody else. And it's always been that way, and I expect it will continue to be that way. Now they have a front panel here where you have all these inputs on the front. Now this is really cool. They have a logic control system, so you can, for each one of your inputs, you can name them, but not only can you name them, you can fine tune them. If you've got a D to A converter that has 8 volts out, and then a CD player or a tuner or a turntable with 2 volts out, when you switch from one to the other, one of them might blow you out of the room if you don't fail to make, turn it back down, then turn it back up. Within this logic control system, you are able to level match each of your inputs. And that's really, really super cool. So they'll all play at the same volume level. You know what else you can do? You can take one of the inputs and turn it into a home theater bypass. And you can fine tune the channel balance and program that in for each one of your inputs. So if you've got a product that has a little bit of a technical problem where one side plays a little louder than the other, then you can fix it. Or maybe your room plays one channel is louder than the other. You can fix that. Now for me, if you have a channel imbalance in your room, you should really fix that with proper speaker positioning and thinking out of the box. And I think I've talked about that before. That's what our speaker setup disc explains to customers. We think it's better to fix the positioning, not do it electronically. But if you need it, you can do it here. You know what else you have? A maximum volume setting. So if you got some 16-year-olds and they want to play, I don't know what people play anymore. I'm so old, I don't even get what the hell they're doing. But for people who have had their speakers blown up by their teenagers, they will know the pain of it. And this will allow you to set the maximum amount of volume so there can be no accidents in the house that can cost you thousands and thousands of dollars. Look at this new metalwork that they have. It is stunningly beautiful. I mean, everything from the faceplate to the remote control, this is their new industrial design. All of this metalwork is being made in Canada. All the boards are being made in the United States. The transformers are from, everything. everything. This is a company, look, there's no doubt this is an expensive preamp, but there's a reason for it. I have not seen anything that would compare with it. So look, go to our website, take a look at this. Don't buy a preamp. Do not buy a preamp without taking the product, putting it into Google, clicking on the tab that says images, and then looking inside of it to make sure there is something in the box. You don't have to be an engineer. This thing weighs 76 pounds. You're really getting something for your money, and not just that, they have spared no expense, and it's in the details, you know? So look, go to our website. We want you to go to local dealers. I mean, I think every town is better if you have a local hi-fi store and a local record store. I believe in that. But if you don't have a local dealer, I've got great people here. Nobody works on commission. We tell people if they're wasting their money. We have had people want to buy stuff for 10 grand and we tell them no, buy this one for 5 grand because we want to do things that are appropriate for you. I promise you that's the way I think, and I hope that's the way all my employees think because they're not on commission. We want to make sure that you know that we're going to treat your system and your money just like it's ours. Thanks.